seems you only remember.
Hello, hello. So, um, I think we'll just jump right into the first topic, which is the death of music. Is music dying, or is it just the business of music that's dying? We have more access than ever to music, but is the cultural impact of a hit song weaker than it was 30 years ago? What's your knee-jerk react? We'll
Well,
dive
my
into
knee-jerk
each
reaction
of your.
is no. Of course, music itself is not dying because music is like such a powerful thing in a lot of people's lives, and so I don't, that's not going away. But building a career in music right now is really hard because the music business is just not conducive to artists or kitties.
We're kitties.
But but people even big, successful artists are struggling with touring right now. Touring's expensive. For some bands, touring is like they lose money on touring and you can't really make money off of records anymore either. Streaming royalties are really not that great. So
But aren't there like a lot of companies now that are trying to like fix that? I feel like every other day I'm seeing something that's like, go on this or like, like
there
that.
are, yeah. I mean, one of the good ones right now is Bandcamp because, they have a model that's focused on, having fans pay for the music and giving the artists a very fair cut of that.
But yeah,
Bandcamp takes only a little bit, so, in an ideal world, that would be the primary. Maybe, Bandcamp would be more prominent than say Spotify or something. I think that would be
be
beneficial
ideal.
to a lot of people, but but streaming is also just really convenient and it makes sense why a lot of people like that. I mean, using Tidal or Spotify or whatever it is, you have access to almost everything. Not exactly everything, but for a lot of people, that's
Yeah,
all.
that's like good enough. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a
and
good enough.
yeah, and a lot of people are just casual music listeners. I don't think they're very proactive, so maybe they're just listening to the curated playlist or whatever,
Right,
and they're
right.
not.
And just like, oh, this is nice, this is not
Yeah,
nice. Right,
and
right, like
maybe they're
that.
never gonna like support an artist directly, so maybe.
Right. And they're not caught up in the whole philosophical debate about it. So that was gonna kind of factor into my answer. Is just like is music dying? My knee-jerk reaction's the same as yours. No, I don't think in any way, shape, or form music is ever going anywhere. Like music is so integral to like the human experience, um, that I don't think that's going anywhere. But do I think the music business is dying? This is where I think I'll slightly diverge from you. I also say no. I mean, it all depends on what you define as the music business, right? Like traditionally, if we think of the music business as like record labels, then I mean they're dead. They're dead as dead as disco, as the saying goes. But do I think the music business is dead? No, I just think it's finding like different outlets. Do I think there's not as much money in it right now? Yes, but that's because it's in a transitional period, which a lot of fields are, especially with like the technological advancements of AI. We'll get into that at another time, but I think it's going through a transition. Um, in the second half, do we have more access than ever? The cultural impact. I think cultural impact is down, but for a completely different reason. I don't think that that's music specific. I think that we're all in information overload. Like you could be listening to a bunch of like metal bands that are all coming out, and that's like your whole ecosystem, and that's what your algorithm looks like. It's a bunch of metal bands, and I could be listening to a bunch of neo soul guys, and like that's what my whole, or jazz fusion guys, and that's what my entire, you know, um, online presence is showing me, and etc. So it's like people can like go off into their own little worlds now, and like never touch each other. Whereas like 30 years ago, it's like everybody knew who Michael Jackson was. Like everybody knew who Prince was to some extent. Everybody knew who Metallica was to some extent because that was like if you were watching VH1 or you're watching MTV or you're watching like we were all watching the same channel that had the same music playing.
Yeah.
And
I,
so,
I,
good,
I
go ahead.
hear
Go.
the word like monoculture sometimes
Yeah,
to describe that. So yeah, I mean right now, it just seems like, there's still like a top 40, but you can have a number one hit that still
half
have
of the
no
country's
cultural
never.
impact or whatever. And
Yeah.
I mean, I think that still happened a little bit back in the 70s or whatever. But yeah, like, if a song was huge, it was huge for everyone. Right now it kind of seems silly to think of like a number one hit song as like necessarily being like a huge important song because um I was just seeing something like right now Drake just released like three albums and he had nine songs in the top 10. It's like oh this is
But I
you
haven't
know
heard a single.
yeah, and you'll hear things like, "Oh, the Beatles are the only artists who's ever had like blah blah blah," or they've had the most number ones and stuff. Back then that was more impactful because a number one song was just based on radio play. It was like one source, and the regular, people like we're not streaming, we're not looking up on YouTube, we're just, so it was just like that one thing. Like so the radio was a good gauge of popularity or impact or whatever. But yeah, right, yeah, exactly. Like right now, like yeah, I've never heard those Drake songs. I probably never will. Like I don't.
Right. Like it. Like, are we even compare? I get what you mean, and I feel that way about like a lot of things now, where they're like, this person broke this record, this person. And it's like it's
Yeah,
not even the same thing. Like, are we
yeah,
really comparing apples to apples?
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
I think I was watching one thing where they were talking about like Michael Jackson's Thriller album, right? And then they were talking about there was some album that came like real close to it in sales and whatnot. And it's like when that album came out, what you had to do to get that album was you had to hear it on the radio. You had to hear it on the radio or on TV or something. And like you probably heard like just like one song that like really resonated with you or a few of them. And then you had to go down to your local record store and then you had to hope that you got there quick enough that like you could actually buy it and it wasn't already sold out at your local store. So then you either had to wait until the store got it restocked or you had to drive further to go find it at another store to then get it, and then you had to have like a record player or whatever machine to actually play the music on, and like that's what people had to do to hear the album. So like me doing like 3 clicks to hear the latest, like Drake song or Taylor Swift song is nowhere near as like impactful as what you had to do to get a record. When like the newest record came out, like it's
yeah,
like not even remotely close to the same thing.
yeah, yeah. And yeah, the charts were tracking actual sales versus right now streams can be
Dreams, whatever that means. Yeah.
yeah, they don't really equate to sale per se. They have some kind of math that does it. Like maybe if you stream 10 songs, that's like uh, buying an album. I don't know if that's what it is, but
Yeah.
it's hard to
Well,
put that into
right.
a way
And
that
then
makes sense.
the other thing that makes it like a toss up is like you have all these streaming platforms, right? Where it's like it's got to be more than 50% of listeners are like passively listening, right? Like they just listen to a song and then whatever the next song is, they're listening to that. But like
Exactly. They don't listen to artists or albums so much as they listen to playlists or like moods
right,
or vibes or genres or
right. And so it's
really
like so
yeah.
you'll have this artist like blow up and have like an inflated sense of like, oh my God, I'm at the top of the chart. But the truth is like more than half of the people that listen to your song don't know you. They don't know your discography, and they probably heard your song because it was the next song in the queue. Like not because they actually like searched your like, oh my God, I gotta hear blah blah blah. So, like that was not the like that was
Yeah,
most likely not the interaction.
right. So you're not really as an artist, you're not really like making fans per se of you. It's more like song by song, I think. So
Yeah, like the algorithm's in my favor this time.
yeah,
You know, like
yeah.
it's and that's just that's kind of sucky for a different reason. But the one thing that I will say is the one part of the question where it's like we have more access to music than like ever. I feel like yes, but no. In some ways, I feel like we're in a musical drought, and that's probably why it feels like music is dying, even though it isn't. Um, because like for example, like if you ever go to like a retail store, at least for me, like if I go to like an Old Navy or like any sort of retail store, they're playing music from like 10 years ago in that store. Like
Mm.
they're playing music that's like at least like 5 to 7 years old. I'm not hearing anything that's like, oh, this song came out last week. Like you're talking about like Drake just had like all these albums, and it's like I don't hear any of that playing in like a store. Whereas like I remember even in like the early 2000s, it's like if Metallica dropped an album and you would go out in the world, like you would hear songs from that album out in the world. You know what I mean? Like you would, like it would be something like semi close to like now.
Yeah.
Whereas like now, this is not the case. It's like it's always something like 10 years or further back.
Yeah, yeah, to really, I mean, yeah, there's so much music being put out like all the time. So it's like an impossible situation to be in. Like you could never listen to all of it. You could never find all of it. But some people enjoy that like digging, and those people are gonna find the hidden gems and maybe help put those in the ears of other people. But yeah, you really have to be proactive, I think, a little bit to find that. Otherwise, you're just going to be fed this stream of like curated playlists or suggestions or things from the algorithm, which, in my experience, the algorithm is never like too surprising or is never really, I
It's,
guess,
it's never that far out of your comfort zone.
yeah.
And I think we talked about this before, but like that algorithm, man, um, like it really, especially from a music perspective, it really kind of kills your like palette, because it's like if you search one sort of song one time, it's like everything is gonna be like related to that, and like every wheelhouse of like the internet that you're on, or like they're even saying that too with like like people who like doom scroll and like panic stuff. It's like
Yeah.
if you search one thing that worried you, now your entire ecosystem looks like that. So
Yeah.
from your perspective, the whole world seems like they're enthralled with that same thing.
Yeah, it
Like
snowballs into
yeah, and so
yeah.
like you might be a musician and might like look up Suno or something one time and be like, "Oh my God, AI music." And so then now like everything is AI music for you. It's like in your mind you're like everybody's listening to AI music. But it's like in actuality that's just not, like that's not actually the case. It's just like that's what the algorithm kind of
Yeah.
perpetuated like that idea to you. So even somebody who might get recommended like this video, like it'll probably be 'cause, from some tag or something that we put on there, but it's like that's not like the de facto worldview, you know what I mean? And most likely like not even like the case. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean I don't know, like which kind of sucks because I feel like originally like before we really had streaming services like that, I feel like Pandora was one of the first ones if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken. Like,
Yeah.
well, like I loved the old Pandora days, and I just feel like it went the other way. I feel like it used to be out like you would put a song in, and you would hear a song, and then it would play something completely different from
Exactly.
that.
Yeah, you didn't have like direct control over what you were listening to.
No,
You
right, right.
you would choose one song and it would go
Right,
from
and I
there.
mean, like, yeah, every
Yeah.
now and then it would be a little annoying because you'd be like, "Oh, I really, really don't like this song, and I wish I could like skip it or something like that."
Yeah.
But like most of the time, it was like, "Oh, like this is different, but this is cool," and like, and then you would personally like look stuff up. At least I would. Again, I don't know. I feel like people who love music have always loved music. So like I just can't understand the thought process of someone who doesn't really jive with music. Because I'd be
Yeah.
like, well, why are you on Pandora? Then just go listen to,
Right.
like just go listen to the 5 songs you like. But I thought it was going in that direction. But yeah, like with the whole like algorithm thing and like it kind of went the other way. It kind of went more with like I'll give you the same thing, but like in different versions of the same thing. And it's just like well, that's not good at all. And that's one of the reasons why like for anybody listening, Dan and I do this thing where we like swap like songs. So we do like a song of the day sort of deal where it's like every day, like someone just sends someone a song that they would normally not listen to or something like that. But I love that, and I wish some of these platforms, like I know they have like the featured sections and stuff like that, but like they should really shy away from like these are the big artists. Because every time I've ever opened up Spotify and I look at that featured thing, it's always like the same
It's not,
couple of
it's
big artists.
definitely not tailored to me. It's tailored to
Yeah, it's
popular.
tailored to what's quote unquote popular, but it's funny because it's only popular because that's what. But anyways, um, I just wish it showed me like more random folks, like completely random people, and that's one of the reasons why we're doing this podcast is that we could like hopefully like put a spotlight on some like bands and groups where we're just like, hey, like this is genuinely good music. Like give it a listen. It's like emotional, and we'll always talk about like why we like something at least, instead of just be like it's good, it's not good, it's popular, it's not popular.
Yeah.
Um, I think I can speak for both of us when I say like neither one of us would ever recommend something because it's popular, or like a lot of people are listening to it. Um, like that'll never be a factor in anything that we recommend in terms of like bands, music, ideological stuff, anything like that. That'd be my little disclaimer. Um, but yeah, anything else on this question?
No, not right now. I'm sure this is something
I'm
we'll
sure we'll
be able
yeah,
to explore periodically,
we'll
as
we'll chop it up on this one again.
yeah.
Um, okay, so bands vs solo acts. Why does a band like Queen or Zeppelin feel more legendary than a solo artist with a backing track? Is the friction between band members the secret sauce of great art? I think there's a little bit of assumption in that one, but I guess I'll go first this time. But for me, I don't think there's that much of a distinction. Personally, I like bands more. Personally, I like the idea of bands because music is like a cultural thing. Like music's a shared social thing, and so I think when one person has a vision and they're like, okay, I'm gonna enact my one version of something, it's just not as interesting to me because they can be like, okay, this is what I was trying to do and I got exactly what I wanted. I think I like something more when it's like, oh, here's what I had in mind, and then when so and so heard it, they were like, hey, like do this, like add this to it. And so it's
Yeah.
like music doesn't have an owner. Like even if I make a song, I was just a conduit for the music. You know what I mean? So it's
Yeah.
like that's just more personified with bands than with like individual artists.
Yeah, like music is like a form of communication. So if you have a band that has that musical chemistry, that ability to communicate musically and be on the same page and kind of improve each other's, it's the idea of like being greater than the sum of its parts. So there are bands like that, and then there are bands where they're essentially a solo artist, but um it really depends on, a lot of factors like, some bands it's all centered on one person who has the vision, who writes the songs, who probably like sings the songs and who calls all the shots. Um,
Jack White.
yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, you could say that, but the White Stripes were a band that were two people that I think they were important to the sound. So,
Absolutely.
but I mean, his solo stuff doesn't really appeal to me that much. I think it
That's
lacks that.
that's why I yeah.
But
I love that you're saying that because that's exactly why I brought that.
yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, that's a great example. But yeah, it definitely lost something. But that White Stripes is an interesting example because the White Stripes as a band were so minimal. Just being a duo that didn't have bass and was usually two instruments. Album wise a little bit more, but I don't think they ever toured with uh more
no,
musicians
every
than that.
live thing I've ever seen
And
was
they
just
didn't
simple.
need it because when you have that ability to, they had ability to conjure that band energy, with just the two of them. Um, so yeah, yeah, you definitely lose that, even if Jack White was the one singing and writing all the songs.
Right, just being in the room makes a difference. Just someone else being in the room makes a
Yeah,
difference. Like it
yeah,
doesn't matter, it doesn't matter if like you hear that all the time. Well, I wrote this and I did the, and it's like it doesn't matter. Like just by
yeah,
someone else being there,
hmm
you're like, that one note, like
yeah,
that could make a world of difference between like
yeah.
something being something and something not being something.
Yeah, and a great band like you mentioned Queen or like the Beatles are a good example. REM is a great example of a band that like had four members that all were like
Super
equal.
important. Yeah,
But yeah, I mean bands like that. I think there's when you're working, you're kind of like working to uh, even if it's not your song that you wrote, you feel like that ownership of it as part of the band. You feel like, I'm gonna make this as my
as
part,
good as
my
I can.
role. I'm gonna do the best job I can because it's gonna, you wanna, um, everyone has that shared goal. So it's pretty interesting. I mean, you don't often like in a different art fields, I mean, of course you can collaborate on things, but it's not often you would see like maybe like a painter or something be like, you wouldn't see like four people making one
Yeah,
painting.
yeah.
Uh, so I think music is really, really special that way because it kind of allows you to get in the mind of other people and be if you're jamming or playing music together, you all have to be like in sync, like you're in rhythm with each other, you're in harmony with each other, and the more you do that with other people, like it really does grow, you really can have musical chemistry with some people and not others, and
Yeah.
so, some bands like I mean the Beatles are like a freaking miracle, like how
Yeah.
these four people um, come together, pun, who, who, they found each other who could complement each other so well. And, they all had strengths and weaknesses, but together they could amplify all those, strengths.
Yeah, all the strengths.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, one thing that I thought was, was just kind of interesting that you were saying was like even the whole concept of like making music, because you were talking about, like them kind of being a duo and being more minimalist. It's like even the concept of making music is like contribution, right? Like it's layering, right? Like even if you sat down to make a song right now, you're right, you're like, okay, I'm gonna do my rhythm guitar part, then I'm gonna do my lead part, then I'm gonna do my, it's like it's set up to be like these multiple, elements layering into something, and hopefully highlighting all of the most like important parts. Um, let's jump into because for everybody out there, Dan has a wealth of band knowledge that far exceeds the average music listener. Let's jump into some examples of bands and solo acts, and let's just kind of be like, oh, like these guys were, you know,
Yeah. Well, I had an
legendary.
example I wanted to bring up. So,
Yeah,
the
go ahead.
solo act, David Bowie is
Okay.
had a really
Love.
long career, was not
Yeah.
known for being in a band, although he did try to start a band at one point. I don't know if you've ever heard of Tin Machine, but
That
that was
sounds
like
like a band that Bowie would have tried to
so
say.
like it was kind of funny because at that point I think this was in the 90s, like early 90s, when he was like, oh, like I want to actually be a part of a band, and so he formed this band, but he couldn't really escape the fact that he was David Bowie, like it didn't. I don't know if it ever felt like a band, and I know it wasn't like really a commercial success or anything. They had two albums, but I thought that was interesting because um he throughout his career, he did work with people that he had a little bit of that band dynamic. Like a lot of his classic like early 70s like glam rock albums, he worked with his guitarist Mick Ronson, and that was a collaboration, even if Bowie was the one writing the songs, he had someone else who could do guitar stuff that Bowie himself could do.
Couldn't
And
do it. Yeah.
there was that creative kind of spark between those two. So, from some angles, you could think, it had a similar band dynamic, even though it was,
Right, like no solo act is ever really like a solo, and even like outside of music. I think I was watching YouTube shorts are dangerous now because I might be bringing this up out of context. I was watching like a YouTube short that had like the comedian Trevor Noah was like on there, and like he was like he was saying he hates when like super successful people are like, I did it by myself,
oh yeah, yeah,
like really, like did you really do it by yourself? It's like all those people who climbed Everest by themselves. It's like you weren't guided by a bunch of Sherpas,
yeah,
like
yeah. Like
you up.
music is always so collaborative. I mean, even
Yeah, like
if you're,
nobody is right. Nobody's making music by themselves,
yeah,
like not really.
like even Prince, had a really close and long-standing relationship with like his engineer,
Prince would have like live-in apprentices and stuff like that. Like
yeah,
he's
yeah.
very into the whole collaborative bit
Yeah.
of
So
things.
even if he was playing all the instruments, he still needed someone to record it and help him put that into, some sort of form, recorded form. So yeah. Uh
Okay, cool.
yeah.
Okay. So we went over Bowie and oh man, Starman is like I would probably say in my top 10 like
Oh
songs
yeah.
that just like live rent free in my head, That
Yeah.
just like it's so stuck in there. Also, The Man Who Sold the World,
Totally. Yeah.
both Bowie's version and Nirvana,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
Cobain's version. Which Bowie, I think himself said that that version was like superior and like in some ways, if you want to be comparative about music, which we'll
Hmm.
do that in another segment. But um, yeah, let me see if I can think of another good example. When I think of like we were just talking about them actually, but when I think of like a good example of like a band that just like sticks together like no matter what, like they're kind of legendary, but they just more like stood the test of time is like Weezer. I always think of Weezer because it's like so I guess from the first album they did lose one person
And
technically, but
people still talk about Matt Sharp as like, oh,
yeah,
like Weezer hasn't been good since he left.
I highly I mean
Which is
I
kind of
would
funny because, he was just basically just a bass player.
yeah
But he did bring something to the band. I mean,
I yeah
he did backing
would
vocals. He had a
yeah
stage presence. So I get it. I do, but like it would be kind of silly. I mean, I think those albums would still be basically the same, without his contributions. So
I
uh
mean, one thing I'll give people who fit in that camp, I'll give them this. I do not think Weezer has ever made an album that was better than the Blue album.
yeah, I
I
mean,
don't think
probably not.
I, I don't think so. Just
Yeah.
just as a body of work. I'm not even talking again, like I said earlier, I'm not talking about commercial success. I'll never talk about commercial success as like a metric that I
Hmm.
judge anything off of. I'm talking about for me sitting down as like I wasn't even a teenager when I was like sitting down listening to those songs. Like they're so integral to me. And I mean like Only in Dreams to me is like just like it's up there. It's very high up there
Yeah.
in terms of just like influential music for me and my music tastes and like what I listen for melodically and stuff like that. Like
Hmm.
I love Weezer.
Yeah.
And so for people who say that, I'll say like but if anything that kind of proves my point. Like just having that extra person there like bumped them up, like bumped them to that point where like they were doing absolutely amazing work. But they still have an entire setup of work that was like absolutely amazing outside of that. But my main point being is you can tell when there was like a high influence of other band members and when there was just like Rivers doing whatever Rivers was
Mm.
doing. Like Pinkerton, which I love Pinkerton too, but like it definitely wasn't as loved. And I think a big reason for that was there probably wasn't as many voices involved with the creation of, like that album.
Yeah. I mean, it was more personal, which maybe even sometimes too personal, and that definitely impacted how it
Let's
was.
not say maybe.
Yeah.
It
But
was too personal. It was too personal.
But yeah, but on the other hand, even if that didn't have a huge impact when it was released, and in fact it kind of derailed Weezer, but over time, because of that personalness, then it actually resonated really strongly with some people and sort of turned into that like fan favorite or cult favorite, um, which is kind of cool. Too, that's like, it didn't have an immediate impact, but it had a slow burn kind of impact on people. Um,
Yeah. So like I don't know, like for me, like why bother is like again, like I love it for that same like super simple lyrics, like super surface level, like in your face lyrics.
mhm.
But at the same time, it's like it was relatable. Like, like I think most people can relate to that.
Yeah,
Like why would
yeah,
I want to involve myself in blah
yeah.
blah blah.
It-
So it's like the personal aspect I don't think necessarily like made the album bad, but I think there should have been somebody who was like, hey, across the sea probably like
oh
maybe
yeah,
we should change some of these lyrics a little bit more.
yeah. But then after that and after Pinkerton, there was a long, I think there was like what, like 5, 6 years of no new Weezer music, and when they came back with the Green album, it was kind of a big
Which
deal,
is
but.
that's like
They
my favorite Weezer song on it. Yeah.
Yeah, but that album, he rolled all of that back. It was not a personal album at all. You know, it's
Yeah.
very superficial in some ways, or like just kind of like I don't know. I
Trying
mean,
to be popular, yeah.
yeah, and maybe some people get um emotional or some sort of resonance from those songs, but I think they were kind of just by design just supposed to be superficial pop songs. For the most part.
Didn't
Again,
that kind of happen with Blur too? Like, well, I forget what is it like Song 2 or something like that? Where,
song two was almost like making fun of American
but
bands.
that wound up being like their biggest.
The biggest hit in America by far,
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
which was kind of just proved their point, but it was just like, yeah, yeah, kind of a meaningless but catchy song. But I mean, it's undeniably an awesome song, so good on them.
yeah. But I mean, like, I don't know. It's different when something's like slightly parody and something's like, you know,
Yeah, yeah. It was a little tongue in cheek for sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it's like I can get behind that, in a way, because I'm like, oh, like, there's a layer of observance you've let me know that you have, to
Hmm.
the scheme of things, as opposed to like, I'm really trying to give you like a party song because like that's really like all I got for you is the party song. Um, but yeah, okay, so there was a word used in this question that I want to go over super quickly, and then we'll hit the last one. But legendary. What what makes a band or a solo act like a legend? Like name a band or solo act where you would say like, hey, like they weren't just popular or big, like they were legendary to me.
Sure. Yeah. Well, you said to me, so like, yeah, I mean, I definitely have I probably could name some artists that are legendary.
At least give me one and give me like a reason why you think they were legendary.
All right, let me think of a good one because I mean, you could default to something like the Beatles, who are legendary for a lot of reasons.
It's not a default. I mean, that is not a default in this day
They
and age. There's a lot of young
sure.
people
So
who don't even know.
yeah,
Yeah,
but I mean, just to even just like the Beatles, they made classic albums, they made classic songs, they were innovative and they were influential. So all those things go into being legendary.
legendary.
So yeah, and I guess success or just like impact is a metric too for that. But I
Yeah, if
think
you're gonna say they're legendary,
I
yes.
think you could say, you know, uh, at different levels. Like for instance, one of my favorite artists, Robert Pollard, is legendary as in indie rock. He might not be a household name, but he a lot of younger bands cite Guided by Voices and Robert Pollard as an
That's
influence
a
because
big
he had
influence.
a really huge impact and he was really influential in the 90s on like lo-fi indie rock, DIY kind of stuff. He exemplified that because they were putting out music that they recorded at home on a 4 track or a cassette recorder in a garage or a basement. So, and that fire is still burning. People are still
Yeah,
recording.
living off of that. No, that's 1000% legendary. I mean, like for someone to be like, oh, like this is possible. Like this is possible for someone like me. It's 1000% like a legendary thing.
Um, Someone who's kind of legendary because of how little they really did. That would like an example would be like Sid Barrett, who, he founded Pink Floyd.
Hmm.
He really only helmed one album for them, and his story really, he drifted out of music. He had two solo albums and pretty much was a recluse or out of the public eye at least for
Hmm.
the majority of his life. But people could not I mean, he was still, people would take pictures of him when he's out walking around and stuff. Because, just the fact that he wasn't out there and he wasn't available, he wasn't doing anything, he kind of made that legend
Even
like
more,
grow,
right?
you know?
Even
But,
more prolific,
but
yeah.
still, the small body of work that he produced long ago, still, um, people still enjoy it. People still really uh, want to get inside his head. Like, how did he write these songs? What was he thinking? What was he thinking after he got out of music? So it's such there's a big mystery to it that we'll never know. So that kind of keeps that
Legend going.
yeah. So that's legendary, and then you could compare that to his band. Pink Floyd. They're legendary, but
Mhm.
a different reason. Because they were huge. And they made albums that just I don't know crossed all kinds of cultural like
Political,
yeah,
social.
yeah, so
Yeah, when I think of like, and as much as I love the Beatles, like even like like Paul McCartney's gone at length talking about like Blackbird, was about like the struggle of like black women in America and stuff like that. Like one of the first groups I think of when I think of like they had something to say from a political perspective, I think of Pink Floyd. I think of like The Wall, and and
Animals
that,
was a big one.
yeah,
Oh yeah,
yeah,
yeah, they didn't shy away from like big topics. They were just
yeah. Being like, hey, this is where we stand on it. And in a lot of ways, that is legendary. Like I don't know. It's the amount of celebrities now. It's almost like a thing too. Like when like celebrities do interviews and they ask them anything like semi-controversial, they try to give this like very like cut and dry, like happy response. And
yeah, it's there are some things that it's kind of like maybe seen as dangerous to take a side on in the
right, and
dangerous
it's
in the
like
sense for like nobody wants to alienate some of their fans or whatever, so it's good. I mean it's great when people who have a platform can
yeah, say exactly what they mean to say.
yeah.
I mean,
The-
you know, speaking of that, I mean, like you can go really the wrong way with that. Like I'm thinking like Morrissey, like you were talking like
yeah, well,
you could really go the wrong way with that. But
if you're like an idiot and a jerk, I mean, he's got so much goodwill from like the great stuff he made
yeah,
way back when, but he so he kind of has to coast on that alone because the stuff he does and says now is pretty repugnant and pretty ignorant and just it's he still plays big shows and stuff, so I guess maybe a lot of people don't really care, but It's kind of
I don't think
funny.
most people care, but
Yeah, I mean,
that's the yeah. You
it
know,
definitely would be in a. I mean, how cool would it be, like, if he were a cool guy?
how nice would it have been if he was actually
If
nice?
he was a cool dude, yeah, but
That's funny.
I feel like sometimes, some artists you just can't separate like the thing that makes their art great from like the thing that
Them.
probably makes them a difficult person or a problematic person or you know.
Yeah.
Uh,
I tried to though. That's one thing that I like just for celebrity in general. I try to just give celebrities grace. Like if you're known for being an actor
mhm.
and like it comes out that you're like a crappy person, like as much as I can, I'll try to focus on you being an actor, unless it's something significant like pedophilia or something. Like once it hits like like a
Ye-
certain level,
Yeah,
then it's like okay, like you're so far past my moral boundary that it's I can't not say anything,
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
because now I'm contrary to me just to be a fan of you,
yeah.
you know.
Yeah, it really depends. Like, maybe there's an artist who I will still listen to because I'm a fan, but maybe I'll choose not to like buy their new music or go see a show or
Like
something.
support them in a way. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. Or maybe,
Uh,
maybe the artist is no longer around, so you feel a little bit like, okay, like the art survives, the
right.
person themselves, you don't have to worry about it anymore. So,
Yeah, I was watching a thing about that where they were talking about like R. Kelly, I think, and they were like, oh, like R. Kelly was like one of the biggest artists in the world, and the other person like made a face. And they're like, what? Like regardless of how you feel about the guy, like he was one of the biggest artists in the
he
world, and it's
was,
like, what?
and yeah, but in a bunch of years, I mean, are people still going to be listening to his music? I mean, I'm sure people are, but like, I don't.
That's gonna be an interesting thing.
Yeah,
I mean, Marvin Gaye was kind of a controversial guy, but it's like people still listen to Marvin Gaye. You know what I mean?
true. But I mean, I don't know. It's hard to say. Marvin Gaye seems like, he's so far in the past. Just not been around for so long. He's just like I don't really know,
I mean, but still, for like a lot of media, you'll still hear like like oh man, what's the name of the track? Like like Inner City Blues or whatever. I think it was but like you'll still hear that like on everything. You'll hear that in Marvel movies,
Yeah,
like still to this day. So it's
yeah.
like yeah, but
So
try to
yeah.
yeah try to separate the people from. But anyways, my whole point in bringing when you were talking about Floyd is for me, I think that's a metric of someone who's legendary. Is like even if you're a well-known artist and you're just trying to keep your fans happy, like you have some people who are just like, no, I'll make a stand. And same thing with like even outside of music, like Muhammad Ali. That's one reason why I feel like he's legendary. He was like quote unquote a draft dodger, but he stood on his principles as to why and
Yeah.
I think that's why he's still a household name. I really do
Yeah,
think that
true. Yeah. It's
is
kind of
like
interesting, like I always think about is how what artists are going to survive like the test of time and still being listened to in like 50 years, 100 years or whatever. I always think about like Shakespeare, like, it's like how many things, do we not know about that were like contemporary to Shakespeare? There were other people writing it.
right. That just
There were other
completely
people,
right.
that might have been really popular at that time, but only some things, either just by luck or by
Continued on.
whatever, yeah, kind of survived the test of time. So I would have to say that, maybe R. Kelly's music doesn't pass the test of time, even for being phenomenally popular. Um, that would be my prediction. But uh,
Well, we'll see.
yeah, we'll see, or we won't
Uh,
see.
yeah. Well, on that note, I think that's it for this one. But we'll keep it pushing, and we'll see you guys in the next one.
Signing off.